Ahoy! And welcome to Manning Overboard. Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain. A show about the good in liquid life.
Where we talk about bars, bartending, and booze.
She's Hotcakes.
And he's the Captain.
Thanks for coming aboard. Now, let's go overboard. Ahoy and welcome to Manning Overboard. Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain. I'm the Captain, Rich Manning, at your service. And with me, as always, is my lovely wife, Heather Hotcakes. So, Hotcakes, what are we drinking today?
Well, as always, we are drinking something in honor of our guests. So today, I made the One and Done.
Oh, fantastic.
Which, as you might know, is a sherry cocktail that you might have written about in the Imbibe magazine. That was created by our guest today.
Yes, I actually wrote an article with PX Sherry and featured our guest. And our guest was lovely and gracious enough to feature this lovely, beautiful, delicious cocktail.
So, the One and Done.
Yes. And what are you making?
Well, hold on. Let me tell you what's in it.
All right. Well, yes. I'm so anxious because that glass is so freaking killer.
I know.
We'll get to that glass in a moment.
But, it's made with 1.5 ounces of aged rum agricole, specifically St. Benevolence today.
Beauty.
A half ounce of PX Sherry, a half ounce of Kina, a 1/4 ounce of Shinar, and then a 1/4 ounce of Monin tart cherry syrup.
Beautiful.
Served with a orange twist.
All right.
And then for me,
in your fabulous glass, which we really need to talk about,
I made. So I had to go to the Wayback Machine called the YouTubes, and because I couldn't find any long cocktails that our guest had made before. So I actually went to the long back machine, the YouTubes, and found a cocktail that they had made called the O. And so I turned it into a long drink. And the O is a cocktail that was created with 2 ounces of rum, some white balsamic, some muddled strawberries, and some maple syrup. And I turned it into a long drink by adding some club soda. And I wanted to turn it into a long drink because our guest today designed this beautiful glass called The Glitch. And it is stunning and beautiful. And I wanted to highlight that tonight.
Yes.
So,
stunning, beautiful, and very practical. There's no way that glass is going to slip out of your hand.
It's perfect.
We've tried.
So,
it's so good.
Before we drink, we should ask our guest what they are drinking as well.
Yes, so we should introduce our guest.
Absolutely,
I think that would
100%.
be a good idea, too. So today's guest, if you haven't kind of figured it out by now, is Kate Gerwin. She's the self-proclaimed mama bear at the critically acclaimed bar Happy Accidents in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and an absolute force in the industry. She's achieved so much in her career, it's kind of hard to cram it all into an introduction, but here goes.
Go for it.
She was the first woman to win the Bowls Award for World Bartending Championship back in 2014. James Beard's semifinalist. Current member of the Drinks International as one of the top 100 most influential figures in the world. Instructor at the prestigious Bar 5-Day program. Host of the drink-focused show Free Spirit show on Very Local. Finalist on Netflix's Drink Master show. A certified master sommelier. And a designer of this damn glitch cocktail glass, which is perfect. I'm sure there are a couple other things that I missed, but you get the idea. She's a certified badass. So, without further ado, we're so excited to have her on. Miss Kate Gerwin, how are you doing today?
Welcome to Manning Overboard.
No, that was amazing. Thank you for the very kind introduction. I'm very happy to be here.
What are you drinking today?
So I am a tea drinker. I actually, when I don't drink very much when I'm home. In fact, pretty much never. But I love tea, and this is a blooming flower tea that I got last time I was in Hong Kong. I collect a lot of different teas. I have some aged teas back to like vintage pu'ers from the 80s. And whenever I'm home, my very happy comfort place is tea.
I love that for you.
That's phenomenal. That's really great.
Well, cheers, my friend.
Yeah, I pulled out a good specialty for today, but yeah, it's delicious.
We are so happy to have you on. Okay, that's fun.
Oh, this is so damn delightful.
I'm glad you're drinking it. Thank you. I love that drink.
And I love this drink because it was part of your mission to get people to drink more sherry. Because if I memory
Yeah, I
serves me
do a
correct,
lot
you
of.
created this in North Dakota, right?
That's what I was gonna say. I do a lot of much more small market cocktail work. I've done a lot of bars, but mostly in like secondary, tertiary markets. And North Dakota was, it was 10 years ago when I started. I opened 4 bars there, and there it was funny because back then, like I couldn't get certain things. I couldn't get mezcal, and I couldn't get sherries, and there was a lot of things that just weren't coming into the state. We went from not having Genever in the state to being the number 2 account of Bulls Genever in the world. And I always tell people that the power of bartenders and their ability to communicate to guests and their ability to open guest minds to new products is sometimes, I think, underestimated, because when you get a bartender behind a product, I think the force there and the ability to really introduce it to people and have them have a connection is huge. So that was a drink that we put on the menu because we wanted people to drink sherry, because sherry is delicious and wonderful. And I think sometimes people think of it as like cooking wine or something your grandma had. And now, sherry is very popular. And I think sherry is so popular because bartenders love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with the low and no cocktail movement going on, sherry is a great weapon to have in your arsenal if you want low alc drinks. It's a beautiful product.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a way to make a drink longer, to allow a guest to enjoy more time at the bar. And it's I love that it's becoming a something in a bartender's arsenal that really makes the bar extend longer. And that's a great tool.
We have sherry on draft in our bar in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So to say that we've grown leaps and bounds, from grandma's cooking sherry, I think that's a pretty good indicator of where the spirit category is going.
I love that.
How do you all serve it when you serve it on draft?
Well, we do pours of it. We have a manzanilla, and I encourage people to drink it like wine. That's what I do. I drink it like wine, but we also put it in cocktails. Okay. I'll put sherry in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these shots of sherry.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like when I reached out to you to do the imbibe article, I wound up like pulling like 3 or 4 sherry cocktails off your menu to my editor and say, pick one. What you got?
Yeah. I use sherry as a sugar substitute a lot. I think it's PX and some of the sweeter sherries, Olorosos and cream sherries. I think they're great in a substitute of a simple syrup or anything like that, and they have unique, rich flavors. Plus, I think for certain stirred boozy drinks, it's a good way to impart balance without having to really weigh things down with like a rich demerara or something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, and this drink speaks to that because it's very, there's a sweetness component there, but it doesn't hit you over the head. And it's very, very complex, light. It's really, really delicious.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, really dig it. So, obviously, with that big intro that we gave you, you have a hand in so many aspects of the bar industry. Is there an element that really acts as like a common thread that ties them all together?
I mean, for me, I think hospitality is the common thread before anything else. Is hospitality to your community, to your staff, and to your guests. I think that's the most important thing that makes us successful. Is, at this stage of the game, it's 2025. We're all making good drinks. The days of roses, lime juice are fairly long gone. We have, tons of bitters, and we have all these products, and we have all these great spirits. So I think, the thing that we have to really focus on and concentrate on is making sure that we're hospitable to our communities, to our guests, but also to our staff, because that's really who makes us. And those are the people who represent us. And those are the people who are the ones that are really the lifeblood of who we are. So I think if there's one common thread to any amount of success, it's just giving a shit about people for the most part. I get that, unique flavors and having a good palate and understanding balance, those things are all very important. Understanding the science of ice and dilution and, how things work. Yeah, that's all great and fine and dandy. But in the end, you could probably take 200 steps within any town and find a decent drink. I just hope that people are remembering that it's a bigger picture, and that's creating a space that people feel like they want to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't agree with you more. And I have seen how you interact with your staff. Getting to watch you with your bartenders at where were we? Oh, Phoenix, when we were in Phoenix
In
and
Arizona, yeah.
in
Yeah.
Arizona, getting to interact with you. They got you to wear pink, or you chose to wear pink with them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who chose that, but you were
No,
pink
it's.
with
I mean, we we're a great team, and it was funny because I had messaged the two that were coming and was like, "Well, what are we gonna wear?" And they were like, "Oh, we already picked out overalls and outfits." And I was like, "Oh, well, you didn't include me." And they were like, "Oh no, we got you one. Like we just didn't tell you yet." They're like, "We just didn't
That's
tell
awesome.
you yet because you're wearing pink." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, because it's you guys, I will wear pink. Absolutely." It's funny because pink has been a color that's ironically been adopted without. I guess it's not that I wasn't willing. My daughter once said to me when I was designing the bar and we were painting everything, 'cause it was during COVID and we were closed, and my daughter helped with a lot of it. And she said, "Hey, Mom, for someone that doesn't like pink, there's a lot of pink in this bar." And I was like, "It just happened. Like the bar grew into what it was, and everything kind of like I finally like took a step back, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much pink." And now we're pink, and that's what it is. So everything just kind of fell into place.
I love that.
No, that's great.
I love that.
Yeah.
I will tell you, we have watched every episode of your Free Spirit show. We loved
Thank you.
it. We downloaded it. We watched it. We enjoyed. We loved how you highlighted the middle America. We loved how you highlighted the smaller secondary markets. How crucial are those markets for advancing the cocktail culture?
I mean, I think I'm biased. We'll just say that.
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't.
Of course. I mean,
We all know
absolutely.
it. I mean, it's very well known that I've always gravitated towards smaller markets. I have a deep respect for the people in New York and what they do. And we all know, like New York, London, those are what we call the meccas, right? You go there, you go to all these amazing bars that have really laid the foundation. For me personally, like, I don't think that those bars would be what they were if it wasn't for the communities that went there and wanted to share it around the world. Because we all know that our favorite New Yorkers aren't, scammering to get to these other markets. They're doing their thing. I think these markets are what makes consumers love and live and breathe what we do. And I think back like 10, 15 years ago when cocktail culture wasn't what it is today, and you didn't have people who devoted time and energy to, we have 50 best chasers, and we have all these people who are going to bars and creating cocktail cultures and learning to make drinks at their home. And I don't think that would ever have happened if it wasn't for smaller tertiary, secondary markets adopting these things and sharing it with their communities. I also think, since the dawn of time, communities had two things. They had two gathering places. They had churches and they had bars. And if you are celebrating, if you are mourning in times of depression, in times of you go to church or you go to a bar.
Yep.
And the smaller communities, those bars are really, really, really important.
Absolutely.
In New York, you can go to any corner and you have a cocktail bar, and there's a plethora of amazing spaces. But in these smaller communities, there just wasn't that place. There wasn't that many. So those bars were instrumental in not just the education of cocktail culture, but the education and the gathering of community spaces. And, it's a chance for people to go and share some of the highs and lows of their lives. And all those things happen around a cocktail, whether there's alcohol in it or not. It doesn't have anything to do with the alcohol. It has to do with the gathering. It has to do with people coming together. And, we've used the terms of like bartenders or therapists. Well, I don't really think bartenders are therapists, so to speak, but I do think that bartenders are there as a way to express, it's a birthday, it's, your friend had a baby, it's whatever it is, you're like, I want to go celebrate, you go to a bar. On the other side of that, when you're sad or you're depressed or, something happened that caused you grief and you don't want to be alone, you go to a bar. I think those types of spaces are so integral to the community that sometimes people get lost in the idea of cocktails and they forget that these spaces are a lot more for people. And I see people that study in bars. I see people that go to places to just have company. And I think that's a really important part of what we do.
Yeah, well, when we go to bars, we don't necessarily go for cocktails. We go because, hey, we want to see people. We want to see, the bartender that we connected with. We go into a city. It's like we're going to go and see where the bartenders are at. We're going to go follow them. We did.
And the bartenders are usually ambassadors of their cities. They usually, you go when people travel, they go to a bar. And they ask the bartender, hey, where's a good place to go see a show? Or where's a good place to go get this great food? Or what's your favorite this? And, as hospitality people, I always tell my bartenders, and we always say, like, have 5 good recommendations of different bars for different things. Have some cocktail bars, have some dive bars, have your favorite food places. Where do you go for a good movie? Where do you go for a good show? What if you want to listen to live music? Because we are ambassadors to our city, and we really do want people to have the best time when they come visit us, especially in secondary, tertiary markets, because there's not always a guidebook. There's not always this, now we have the internet, but you go to New York, right? There's tons to do. You got museums on every corner. You're going to Times Square. You're going to the Statue of Liberty, but you go to Boise, Idaho, and you might not know what to do. But for me personally, if I need a spot, if I need to know something, I'm going to go to a bar and I'm going to ask the bartender what to do in the town.
100%.
Absolutely. It's like I tell people, it's like if you go to a city with the name of a bar or a bartender, just sit there and you're going to get the keys to the kingdom. You're going to find out, and all of a sudden you're going to look back and go, "My gosh, we went to Oklahoma City for 3 days and we had a freaking blast."
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's all because of the bar community.
Yeah. All right. So, how has Happy Accidents location inspired others to build programs in cities not normally? Do you think Happy Accidents was one of the inspirations for the central blow up? I'll call it.
I would like to hope so. I don't know that I'd give us that much credit. We just did a bartender training for Albuquerque bartenders for just our community. And I was talking to one of the bartenders who is in a newer bar down the street. And we were talking about the difference in like dive bars and cocktail bars. And when we opened Happy Accidents, the only thing that was really in Nob Hill was college bars. It was like party bars. We had Imbibe, we had Nob Hill Bar and Grill, we had Monte Vista, and they were like, $2 fireball shot beer bars, college kids. We're about a mile from UNM. And then the pandemic happened. A lot of bars closed. A lot of bars didn't reopen. And now we look at the landscape of Nob Hill in our little area, and we have 8 different cocktail bars. We didn't have any.
That's awesome.
I do think that, we were definitely the first cocktail bar on the block. I know a lot of my friends' bars were like, the ones that went Roma across the street was like, we're coming because we see we want to be across the street from you. I tell people all the time that we welcome with open arms all new businesses, cocktail bars, dive bars, volume bars, whatever it is. I just literally said the words today. I don't want you to come to my bar and sit there for 5 hours. I love you. Yeah. I don't. I want you to come in. I want you to hang out for a couple hours. I want you to have a drink. I want you to go to the next spot. I want the next spot's people to come to us. I want you to keep moving. I want you to go here. I want you to go there. I want you to do the whole thing. I want you to have a great night. I want all of those things. I opened a restaurant once at this beautiful, beautiful building, and it was kind of far out of town. And we have these things called destination bars. And what I realized is that a destination bar is great for a special occasion and every once in a while, but no one really wants to go out of their way to go to that one cool spot. Right. You don't really go to an area for one bar. But if you have like downtown or uptown or Nob Hill, and you have these areas that have a concentration of 5 or 6 different spots, you want to go there. And I want you to go there. And I want you to visit my neighbors. And because we are all doing something different. We don't have the same formula. We do draft cocktails. They do these types of, like, it's all different. And I want you to jump around, and I want you to have an appreciation for the city, not for the bar. Because if you have an appreciation for the neighborhood of the city, then you have an appreciation for the bar, and you're spending money with us, and that's what we need. But I don't want to just be one spot. I want it to be something. It makes us all better if you have all these different experiences, because more people want to come.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And the great thing is you go to all these different experiences, these different bars. You're going to get something completely different. You're going to be able to look at that city through a specific filter, a different filter from one bar to the next.
Absolutely.
It's like we were recently in Nashville, and we went to a known bar, a Tails nominated bar, but then they sent us down the road to this bar that looked like a ski lodge kind of thing. Really teeny tiny, really small. Only the locals know it, and we had a freaking blast. Because it was like a whole different side of Nashville that we wouldn't have got if we would have stuck with our plan.
Our list.
Yeah.
That's
I love that. I like tons of different experiences. I want people to, walk from here and go a block down and come across the street, and it's a great experience for people.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love the idea. I always have a list. I love the idea of having a list, going in, having some research, but also being open to just go somewhere else and being able to change tactics and change plans, because you never know if somebody suggests something where you might end up. And those places are usually more often the special places that are off the grid that you haven't
without
heard
a doubt.
Yeah.
Now, what pushes you to pursue new endeavors within the bar industry?
I mean, a lot of the things that we've ended up doing, we didn't do initially with the idea of doing them. So, like, when we opened Happy Accidents, we never realized we were going to turn into a distillery, buy another piece of property for a distillery, end up purchasing a canning line. It's one of those things that, like, the path kind of just led us there. We always wanted to open a bar, and then the pandemic happened. And then we wanted to open a bar with more intention. We wanted to open a bar where we felt that our staff would have more security. And, nothing's perfect. The industry ebb and flows. There's always things going on in the world, but we wanted a place where people weren't living paycheck to paycheck, or people weren't scared of not having health insurance, or what would happen if they got sick. And that kind of led us into the distillery model. And when we first started distilling, we distilled just for ourselves. And then people wanted, the products we were making. And then it was like, well, why don't we just get bigger? So I don't know that I've ever really set out and been like, I'm going to do this. But I think our path has led us to kind of just keep biting more and more. And I don't want to say like bite off more than we can chew, but we just keep chewing and stuffing our mouths.
No, that's great.
And I think that's kind of just where the path has taken us.
Sure.
That's cool. Now, are people surprised to find out that Happy Accidents also distill spirits?
Absolutely. So from a consumer perspective, we try and keep the bar looking like a bar as much as possible. We do, obviously, we have our own labels, we have our own spirits. Our menu is labeled as all of our own spirits. We talk about it, but we don't want people to feel like they're in a distillery. There's a lot of distilleries have tasting rooms, but you don't get that same vibe as when you're in a bar. And we didn't want to have a tasting room vibe. We didn't want people in there feeling like they couldn't sit down and chill and have a conversation and, have it like that vibe that you have in a bar. So it was really important for us that it felt like a cocktail bar that you discovered was a distillery.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it comes along, is people will start to like, oh, well, how come everything says Happy Accidents? Or how come there's no brand names? Or people will ask, like, what about this? And we'll say, well, we're a distillery. And they're like, oh, okay, well, can I try this? I want to try this. And then it just kind of leads into this in-depth discussion about why we are and what we do. And we do have a pot still, but we really do more vacuum distillation. That's kind of our thing. And then people get really curious about vacuum distillation and what kind of flavors and aromatics we're using. And we also import spirits. So that's another factor we get to talk about, is like all the different agave spirits that we import. We import Bacanora and Sotol and Roicilla, and we import rums from different countries in Guatemala, and that gives us a different angle and a different edge as a lot of different bars. And that's what I mean when I want other bars, because I want to be able to say, hey, this is the Bacanora that we import. This is actually an alternative agave or an alternative Mexican spirit, Sotol. But if you go across the street or if you go down to Los Conejos, they have 20 different raicillas, and they have these different things. You can try other different things. And I think that's kind of what gives our community a really unique note on things, is that we all kind of do something a little bit differently.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
Do you produce? Well, okay, so you import spirits. Do you do all your modifiers as well, or you are?
We do, all the modifiers are done in house.
That's amazing.
That's great. That's really cool.
Except for fortified, we can purchase fermented and fortified beverages. So we purchase beer and wine and anything vermouth, sherry, port, things of that nature.
Wow.
I really think, Kate, that the fact that you're a distillery really kind of highlights a very key thing if you are a distillery that has a tasting room. If you go to the tasting room and you're doing cocktails there, you're still a bar, and you need to train your bartenders, your staff, to act as bartenders. We've been to tasting rooms before where they don't give a shit about the customers, and it makes you want to get the hell out of there.
I've had a really hard time in tasting rooms. There's few and far between where I've had genuine hospitality experiences outside of this is our spirit and this is what makes it different. I think there's a point where people go to distilleries to taste the spirits, and that's fine and dandy. But for us, we really wanted the spirits that we created to be a back note to the hospitality that we provided and the cocktails that we made. And it's almost something like a happy surprise at the end that they're like, oh, wow. So you guys make everything from, all the way from the spirit to the glass. We're like, yeah. And it's like a little bonus. It's like a little surprise.
That's amazing.
Really cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So switching gears for a hot minute, you are an instructor for Bar 5.
I am.
You are. Do you have any idea, as an instructor, do you have any idea of where the industry might be going in the next few years? As somebody who is teaching all of the youngins, do you have an idea of where the industry might be headed?
I mean, I do, and I this is obviously my opinion. Yeah. But when we first really, really started the era of mixology, so to speak, we had fresh juice, simple syrup, muddled fruit, and spirits. And Bar 5 was really geared towards the education of spirits, the history of distillation, the history of all of these different spirits, where they came from, how they're created, the differences in them all. And Bar 5 was really, really focused on the ingredients, meaning the spirits. And, we talk about Armagnac and Cognac and everything, gin, agave spirits, but it's very spirit central. And there's a little bit about the cocktails, and there was a lot about history and the history of bartending. As Bar 5 has grown, I think it's grown as the industry has. Now, instead of just fresh juice and simple syrup and muddled fruit or infusions, now we have the art of bartending and the art of ice and the science between dilution and aeration. And we go in even further, and now we have clarification techniques, and we have, people using all of these different, using sonic waves for infusions and centrifuges for clarifications. And we have all of these different methods and techniques, and we have all of these different ways that we've been creating. And now we are layering flavors that people never thought possible. Like, right now, all of the trending savory cocktails and mushrooms and tomato, that was not a thing 10 years ago, right?
Sure.
Like, no one was putting mushrooms in cocktails. And if you would have thought to put a mushroom in cocktails, people would have been like, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. Right. Back then, you studied the classics. And don't get me wrong, you still need to study. You have to learn the fundamental basics. And
you got to know your classics.
You have to learn your classics. But there was a lot of that era was just switching out an ingredient in a classic. And I think that's the progression of how you learn as a bartender. First, you learn the classics, and you learn them tried and true. Then you start substituting out ingredients. like twisting classics and riffs on classics. And then we have this new wave of like creating very new and unique techniques and bottling cocktails and aging cocktails and, all of these different things and how all of these cocktails transform over time. So I think that's kind of where the progression has gone from. As bartenders, we used to learn different information about spirits and we used to combine those things and create. Now we're more like chefs and we're creating techniques and we're following pastry chefs and we're using kitchen techniques and we use sugar and we're working with sugars and we're doing all of these different things that would never have been thought of 10 years ago in cocktails. Like,
that's great.
Bars have labs.
Yeah.
When we first started Bar 5, when I took Bar 5, there was no lab. There was nothing. I mean, we were all excited that people were using fresh lime juice and lemon juice and that, there was more than 2 different types of bitters. And now there's, hundreds of bitters and there's all these different, but that's like the baseline. Now it's, do you have a rotovap? Do you have a centrifuge? Do you have a, and that's where I think bartending has taken a turn. Is it's very technique driven. It used to be ingredient driven, and I think now it's more technique driven.
Now, do you think that smaller secondary, tertiary markets can be a driving force for that kind of innovation? The reason I ask is a couple years ago I was talking to a bartender in Dallas, and he said that he has a little more freedom to do that kind of technique and push the envelope more than a New York bartender. The reason why is if he failed, people would just shrug their shoulders and go, "Oh yeah, you're from Dallas. Of course it's not going to work." What do you think about that? Do you think that secondary markets can do that?
I think in their own market, they still have to uphold a standard.
Okay.
I would hate the idea that it's like, oh, you're from Dallas, you can mess up and it doesn't matter. I do think that those areas have a better driving force for it for some other reasons. For one, space. New York bars have no space. There's not very often they have the room for a lab or a kitchen or a full-blown area to produce all these things where, Texas is big. They got lots of room, For us, we operate, I tell people all the time, I always go, why are you in Albuquerque, New Mexico? And so quality of life here is huge. Rent isn't the same thing it is in New York City, right? Like rent in New York City's $20,000. Well, rent here can be $6,000 or even less. So I think those types of things enable us to have more flexibility and more ability to experiment, more ability to make mistakes, more ability to buy equipment, and more space to be able to do so because we're not hindered by some of the things that New Yorkers have to deal with. I'm working on a new bar, and we were talking about the plans, and they were like, "Oh, is this enough room for prep?" And I said, "Well, it depends on who you ask. I have a big prep space. I have a huge kitchen. For me, I want a couple little extra more room. But I know for a fact if I showed that prep space to any of my New Yorker friends, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh,
that's so much
space. So much room for prep."
Right?
So I think that is a huge factor is the ability to have a lab or space. It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's great.
As a mentor, probably our last question for you. As a mentor and trainer, what would be one piece of advice that you find yourself giving or you wish that you would have gotten and learned early in your career?
I think the thing I give out the most is just be unapologetically authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
I think especially now in the age of TikTok and social media, and even in the awards culture, everybody looks to the award-winning bars or these specific bartenders, and we emulate the people who we think are the best, and we all try and conform to that. And we start to see the industry getting smaller and smaller and less creative and less creative. And I use the era of clarified cocktails. Don't get me wrong. I love a clarified drink, but that is not the end all and be all of a drink. And there's menus that I see every drink is clarified, and I went to a great bar that I actually love, and I was with 8 people, and we ordered 8 drinks off the menu, and they were all clarified, and we all ate the garnishes off them after we tried them, and we all couldn't figure out whose drink was what.
drink was who?
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were all like, and then we started tasting them, and they were delicious, but they were so clarified that a lot of the distinguishing characteristics, once we started trying them, all kind of started to wash together.
They're all so subtle. Yeah.
I love a good clarified drink, but I do not think your entire menu needs to be clarified.
No, not
I
at
want
all.
to see a bright, pink, juicy, frothy, full-bodied cocktail on the menu, and I want to see a stirred, boozy, brown drink, and I want to see something green, and I want to see a clarified drink too. But I think that sometimes everybody gets so focused on what that bar did this and they won that, or that bar did this, that we all start to like kind of copy each other too much.
Yeah.
So just if you have something, if you have an idea, just let it fly and run with it and keep pushing that idea. And if a door closes, find another door. And if that door closes, find another door and find a crack in the door and push it open as hard as you can. And if you're not invited to that table, there's another table where you'll be invited. And I think sometimes we just get so into the well, what are they doing? Well, what are they doing? Just be unapologetically authentic in who you are and what you are, and there will be space for you.
I love
That's wonderful. That's great.
I love that.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. And before we come to the end of our show, you started with always have answers to questions in case for your bartenders. Have answers to questions about the city you live in.
We have questions.
We have questions because that's the way we like to close our show.
Let's do it.
We
And
call
not
them
enough
our
people
last
come to
call
Albuquerque,
questions.
so I'm ready for it.
We call them our last call questions because we'd like to think that if we were sitting at your bar visiting your city for the first time, and if we wanted to visit the city and get a whole breath of where we were at, we would ask the bartender these questions.
Yep.
So if we were visiting Happy Accidents and we were in Albuquerque, we would want to know these things. So first question, I'm new in the city. After a cocktail at this bar, where should I go next for a good drink?
I say get a mango michelada at Los Conejos down the street from us. They have an incredible agave program. It's just, New Mexico has a really unique, diverse inter-exchange of 2 major cultures. We have indigenous and we have Hispanic. And I think Los Conejos does a really good job of staying true to Hispanic culture. We're very close to Mexico, obviously, and they have the best micheladas in town. And honestly, I'd say in the U.S., they're really, really great.
Fantastic.
That's great.
All right. Who's got the best burger in town?
I want to say us because we do, but I don't want to toot our own horn. I'm really into nostalgia, and we have a burger on the menu that is basically our version of a Big Mac. And when I was a kid, and bear with me, when I was a kid, we were kind of poor. A Big Mac was like, it was like the epitome of like, oh my God, we get a Big Mac. So we we call a big snack on the menu, and I think it's the best burger in town.
Okay.
Done.
Fantastic. I will tell you, when we visited Albuquerque, because being from California, obviously we have our California thing. Whataburger.
I was going to say, so
is it
the
Whataburger
fast food
or Blake's?
Blake's is okay. I think Whataburger is kind of our thing. I think the locals prefer Blake's. But I will say the one thing that we are 100% known for is the green chili cheeseburger.
Yes.
It's a massive thing here. Green chili is, our claim to fame. It does not come from Colorado. Green chili can only come from one place, and that is Hatch, New Mexico.
Yep.
And it's about 2 hours south of us. And if your green chili doesn't come from Hatch, New Mexico, it's not green chili.
Absolutely.
So, the green chili cheeseburger does reign supreme. So we have 2 chains, Blake's and Whataburger. Both of them do the green chili cheeseburger to the T's. I personally kind of stay away from chains, but it is a local chain, so thumbs up to them.
Right. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. If you have an afternoon to kill, what am I doing?
Ooh, this is a good one. So we have a lot of art galleries. That's really awesome. But one of the things that I think people don't realize about New Mexico, we have 28 indigenous tribes, and we have a lot of tribal land here. And if you head just out west, literally to the city lines of Albuquerque, you will hit tribal land, and you can go see petroglyphs. And I mean, 1,000-year-old petroglyphs carved into the stone, caveman times. Now, this analogy is going to be a little bit off, but if you ever go to Egypt and you see the pyramids and you look out from one direction and it looks like, the pyramids are out in the middle of nowhere and there's this beautiful sandy sunset. But if you look the other way, it's like the huge city population. Well, if you come to New Mexico, or if you come to Albuquerque specifically, and you go just to the edge of the city line, we have the petroglyphs, and you can look one direction, and out in that direction is all tribal land. We're not allowed to build on tribal land. We don't use tribal. So it is just beautiful sunsets. There's the 3 volcanoes, and there's literal petroglyphs that you can see. But if you just turn the other way, it is the entire city of Albuquerque right there on the line of the tribal lands. And I think it's really special. There's also the tram. You can take the tram up to the top of Sandias, and the Sandia Mountains has a beautiful view. I think that's really special too. But for me personally, as someone who really loves history, the idea that I can stand in a place where people were carving pictures into rocks thousands of years ago and look out and see all of this modern city, I think it's really a special thing that you don't find anywhere else.
That's pretty amazing.
That's great.
What is one cocktail on your menu currently that I shouldn't miss?
Gin and tonic. We have done this specific gin and tonic for years. Blaze and I have had it on menus for probably the past 12 years. We tell people all the time, we'll ruin you for every gin and tonic you'll have for the rest of your life. It's probably it's got a cult following. We make our own tonic. We make our own gin. We carbonate everything in a keg. It is ice cold. The gin's carbonated. The tonics, it is carbonated to the last drop. It does not dilute. It is effervescent as heck. It goes through a micron filter. So we get all the cinchona bark out. It is the epitome of what I tell people is, if you can't make the most basic drinks to the top level, then you still have to go back to school. I want you to, I don't care if you drink a vodka soda. I don't care if you drink a gin and tonic. I don't care if you drink a whiskey cola. You'll have the best one you'll ever have in our bar because we'll make it to a T. Our gin and tonic is so good.
That sounds great.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
All right. If I'm going to brunch, where am I going?
Oh, the shop. No questions asked. There's a restaurant about a block and a half away from Happy Accidents called The Shop, breakfast and lunch. Chef he's been best chef in Albuquerque too many times to count on your hands. Not only is the food absolutely flipping incredible, but the people are the best in the biz. They provide equitable work environments for their staff. They
Amazing.
care about the
That's great.
community. I just think they're the best. The Shop, hands down.
Cool.
Where's one place I should eat in the city?
Mesa Provisions. Mesa Provisions is absolutely amazing. Chef Steve opened about a year after we did. He's been James Beard semifinalist, actually James Beard finalist last year. That place has a wait every night, and I'm just lucky to know the chef to be able to get in when I can.
Lovely.
That's
amazing.
really cool.
And final question, where do I go for a beer and a shot?
Anodyne. Anodyne is 20 plus years old. It is a upstairs, I wouldn't even call it a dive pool hall. I've been going there since I was in my 20s. It's still around. It's so great. I love that bar. It's where we all go. Anodyne for life.
I love it.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
I love it.
So, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today on Manning Overboard. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you and everything that you do for this industry. You're a firecracker, and we just admire the hell out of you.
I love you guys too. I tell people all the time that sometimes at a lot of these bar events, all the bartenders flock together and we're all, patting each other on the back and telling each other how great we are. But the thing that we forget about a lot at just the industry events is that we don't pay each other's bills. Even when bartenders go into other bars, we all get comped. the people that pay our bills and the people that keep us going are you. And it's you guys that come into our bars and shout us from the rooftops and make sure that we feel seen. You guys are the ones that keep it going. You are literally the things that keep us going. We've won Tales of the Cocktail Awards, and I am absolutely grateful time and time again, over and over, for all the accolades we've received. But I've never been able to hand a plate over to my landlord and have them take it for rent. The people that come in and buy the cocktails and support us are the ones that keep us thriving. So thank you.
Oh, that's awfully sweet of you, Kate. Thank you so much. That's wonderful to hear. Now, if people want to find you on the social media, where should they look?
I am Alchemist Kate, just at Alchemist Kate. And the bar is Happy Accidents Bar.
Fantastic.
And remember, everybody, that you can follow us at Manning Overboard on Instagram, on the Manning Overboard Instagram page, or you can email us at manningoverboard@gmail.com if you have any questions or comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to joining you at our next happy hour. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
I would cheers you, but I'm all out of my one and done because it's so damn delicious.
Cheers, my dear.
Cheers.
Manning Overboard, Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain is produced and distributed by EatsDrinksTV.
A service of the nonprofit Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection,
The Center for Culinary Culture,
telling the story of food and drink, one taste at a time.